little more than a specific project that we're working on. Something we're calling PCs for Kids. But to give just kind of a brief, I see why Elise was doing that, all right. But to give just kind of a brief overview of what we do, we exist to help people get computers. So we started in 1998. Since this was one of the first computers we gave out, it's all beige computers, so I think it's pretty dated. So you can see at least that it was a while ago. We just celebrated this last summer that we gave out 40,000 computers. So we're past that, I think. I was just doing a little bit of refurbishing work yesterday, and I noticed we were already at like 44,000. So we're quickly getting past that, but that's essentially what we do. We just provide computers to people, hence the name. Although it is interesting, there's a lot of people that don't understand that PC. They just say PCS for people. What is it? We're already past that point where the term personal computer is kind of dated thing. So anyway, I'm doing one of the things that I really don't like, and I apologize if I'm insulting someone. I really don't like to put charts in PowerPoint, but this is just to prove a point real quickly. One of the terms that's come up recently, Pew Research have kind of coined the term the homework gap, and I think it's a pretty good term. You can, and this is probably one of the things I'm not going to really touch on very much, but basically the idea is that there's about 5 million households with school-age children that don't have access to high-speed internet at home. So you take this information, and obviously it's very disproportionate, and what this is basically showing is it's very disproportionate to incomes under 25,000, and especially in the Black and Hispanic communities. It's really, those are kind of the hardest hit. And just to give a little bit of an idea, our typical family that we work with is a family of 3 with an income of $12,000. So you realize that they're even well below that. The last thing, this is my last chart, I promise. So you look at the income and how it affects people's ability to be online. And then the other part is, do they actually have the technology to get online? I know there's a lot of research that's out there that's showing how smartphones are changing the landscape a little bit, but I still think I kind of challenge, even with the one-to-one initiatives for iPads, I kind of challenge school districts or even kids, how do you type a paper on a phone or an iPad? There's just really not a way to do it. So I still think there's really an important need for desktop and laptop computers. And again, it's a little different metric, but basically if you're under $30,000, this is from 2014, I believe, or 2013. There's 30% of people, right? 40% of people are not going to have a computer at home. So there's still a pretty big gap. So when you combine those two things, that's where we kind of came up with our initiative for a PCs for Kids program. So essentially what we're trying to do is work with schools directly to identify kids or families that are at schools that don't have access to computers at home. So basically, the 6 steps, it's really a basic overview of it, but basically we just need secure funding to make these sorts of projects happen. Typically, about $95 per computer system, kind of all told, is what it averages out to be. If we're going, up to Baudette, it's maybe going to be a little bit more just for our own, overhead costs of transportation and everything. But on average, and as well as the number of computers being purchased. I mean, if we're going to do an event where it's 200 or 300 computers at a time, the price will drop. But basically, we just secure funding, and then we really try to identify school districts, at least initially, and then the conversation, just kind of let it happen from there. As Bernadine may even say at the conference later, and I think it's a good one, is if you've been to one community, or one rural community, you've only been to one rural community. So I've found that's definitely true of school districts as well. I've just talked with one school district, I've only talked with one school district. Everybody's different, and we try to either identify a district as a whole, or maybe a specific school, or maybe a specific class. Maybe all the 5th graders need a computer or something like that. Or sometimes it's even been, if it's a smaller event, a specific classroom. But the idea, really, I guess I should have said at the beginning, is the PCs for Kids program, is the idea is once we're done and we leave, everybody in that class has access at home. And then that really opens up some opportunities for the educators to flip the classroom and do some different things that they weren't maybe able to do before. Once we do that, we basically choose a date, location, and then we survey the families, or we kind of let the schools do that, because there is some privacy concerns when you start contacting people that are getting free or reduced lunch. That's kind of where we target with schools. So they send out a letter basically just trying to get feedback on whether someone wants a computer or not. So what we're finding is the response rates are kind of dropping over the last few years, which I think is a good thing, but still we usually hear from at least a half to 2/3 of the people of the surveys that go out come back saying that people would like a computer. So once we get the numbers, sometimes there's more survey requests back than when there actually is computers available. When that happens, we kind of figure out a way. It's basically a lottery system to determine who gets the computers. At that point, then the families are selected. They get a little letter that says, show up at this date, at this location, at this time to get your computer. They show up. We do kind of a crash course, digital literacy, which Neela and Shannon saw this week. We basically just talk for 15, 20 minutes. It could hardly be described probably as literacy training, but I think it's at least enough to get people started. Especially with these are school-aged kids, a lot of them are just digital natives and they don't necessarily need a lot of prompting on how to plug the thing in or what websites to go to. They kind of have it figured out already, and we kind of trust that things will get figured out at home. And then that's it, and that's how we distribute the computers. So this was, we're using this model quite a bit. We just opened an office in Denver. This is a picture from an event that we just did, I think right at the end of September in Denver, on this PCs for Kids program. I think they gave out, I think it was 75 computers in a couple hours. So.